Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who's been interacting with my last few videos. It's been incredibly motivating to continue to make content like this for you guys. So thank you. Today I'd like to talk about romantic relationships, what external factors influence us to want these relationships, how those pressures can be harmful, and why friendships are a much better investment. Let's talk about it. For as long as I can remember, I have wanted a boyfriend. I remember in first grade, I had my first boyfriend and we would hug every day after school. Throughout the rest of my schooling, it was something I actively sought after. Me and my best friends in middle school would talk about who liked who we liked, who we really liked. We all wanted boyfriends. And eventually, I got one. But over time and eventually becoming single, as one does, it's something I grew self-conscious and embarrassed about. Labeled as boy crazy, I never stayed single for long. And over time, especially in college, I received a lot of criticism and felt shame about the lifestyle I created. And eventually it led me to think that there was something wrong with me. Like, why am I like this? Now, after a recent toxic relationship, I think it's finally clicking with me. The importance of being single and how much time I've wasted pursuing romance when I could have been investing in relationships that are actually beneficial. So if you're like me and always seeking a relationship or feel some sort of shame about being single or anything like that, know that you're not alone and there actually are some reasons why you might be feeling like this. Romantic love has become so central to the human experience. We place romantic relationships on a pedestal above all other kinds of relationships, even to a point when seeking the romance or being in these relationships can be harmful, take us away from our goals, even dangerous, and yet we still stay. There's an assumption that these exclusive partnerships are normal and something that we should aim for above all else. Similar to heteronormativity, if you seek anything else, being single, just dating casually, being aromantic, asexual, even non-monogamous, you're seen as odd or weird for not wanting to follow the social norms. Which is why your grandmother keeps asking you if you have a special someone in your life, or maybe why your parents keep pressuring as to why they don't have grandbabies yet. I am so grateful that is not my personal experience. Unsurprisingly, this leads single people to question themselves and their worth. What is wrong with me? Why am I single? Hashtag alone forever. Side note, I think about this a lot whenever the topic of incels are brought up. Their pursuit for sex or for a girlfriend has become so crucial to their life that it is their identity and the label that they receive by other people. But it's not our fault. One big pressure that we have, at least in American society, is the emphasis of romantic love in media. From novels to movies, it reinforces this narrative, with the protagonist finding their ultimate fulfillment at the end of the movie with their love interest. This cultural saturation with romance heavily influences these societal expectations and leads us to internalize these norms. Where are the stories celebrating deep friendship, and why aren't they given the same spotlight? My first thought was like the movies Brave and Frozen and how those were like the first Disney princess movies where she doesn't need a man at the end of the movie. Although I have seen the cover of Frozen 3, I think it's well overdue that we start challenging this narrative and realize that fulfillment can come from a wide range of connections and not just the conventional romantic relationship. Another external pressure we might be facing can come from marriage. Originally, marriage was a strategic move there for socio or economic improvement, like my prince and your princess, let's bring our countries together, or my daughter comes with 3 cows. And you really want those cows. And of course, in some societies, it was completely necessary, pulling together resources and labor and making sure that the family lineage continues on. And of course, I am not going to ignore the elephant in the room, religion. The idea of marriage today has been heavily influenced by religious institutions. A lot of our marital norms and values come from religion, which is why it's now considered this sacred union. We can also talk about the practicality of marriage for women throughout history. For better or for worse, we needed marriage as we couldn't participate in the paid labor market. And if we did, maybe we didn't get paid as much. We needed marriage. And of course, for just most of recent history, marriage has been the social norm. Think nuclear family. But now, as a modern society, some of us can marry out of love. But of course, our long-standing history with marriage still influences us today. The expectation of settling down and having kids is the same story we hear over and over again. I wouldn't be surprised if some of my aunts and uncles were placing bets on what cousin is going to get married next. I understand that this is not in everybody's 5-year plan, but there are historical pressures to do so. Lastly, I cannot forget social media. I know I sound like a broken record here, but social media once again plays a bad guy in this story. These apps are perfect playgrounds for people to share the highlight reels of their lives. The big gestures of love, the promposals, the cute cafe dates. Do not get me started on soft launch and hard launch. I am guilty. It's really easy to edit the bad parts of your life or your relationship and pawn it off as authentic. And we eat that shit up. How many internet couples seemed ideal until they break up and all of this stuff is revealed that their relationship was actually terrible the entire time? Another great thing about social media is that a lot of folks share their milestones. Oh, I graduated. Oh, my first apartment. I'm expecting a child. There's nothing wrong sharing these milestones, but it can lead some of us to feel pressured into achieving similar milestones. And I know I've also mentioned FOMO before. For me, it's seeing all of the cute couple things, like I want to go skiing. And then one really gross side of social media, especially as a business major, is the monetization of relationships. Influencers make money off their partners. They promote products and experiences as a part of their shared life. Oh my god, guys, my boyfriend bought me this thing and it's like... In addition to media and marriage, social media plays a huge role on how we perceive and idealize relationships. So these extensive pressures influence us heavily, and there might be more negative impacts than we realize. Now, I'm not saying romantic relationships can't be wonderful. They most definitely can bring you joy, support, fulfillment. But like most things, an overactive focus on them can lead to some harmful outcomes. For example, these previously mentioned forces might encourage you to enter a relationship too quickly. Been there. Or stay in an unhealthy one. Done that. And for what? Just to meet societal expectations? To get rid of that FOMO? Have you ever ignored a red flag? Be honest. Why was that? You know, I used to be so confused when people were in bad relationships or like toxic relationships. Like, why do you stay? How did you not see the signs? We do see the signs. The bigger question is, why did we ignore them? It's like, are we just so desperate for love that we ignore our standards? I think we are so pressured into finding love that we ignore our standards. You might have also experienced how friendships can be neglected when there's a new loving relationship brewing. The focus on romance can overshadow the connections we already have. God forbid you're neglecting your friends over a situationship. Also, who is making these terms? I feel like I've seen too many TikToks, heard too many stories of people ditching their friends of 2, 3, 5-year-long friendships to go be with someone they just met, only to come crying back after that relationship fails or the honeymoon phase is gone. Why do we do that? I'd like to think that we are all conscious of our choices and the outcomes and consequences they have on the people closest to us, but it seems like if we are still choosing the romance. And I think that goes to show the extent of these pressures, because I don't think we're mean people at heart. I think everyone is good at heart, but external forces pressure us to act one way or another that doesn't necessarily benefit us or our other relationships. These pressures, social media, any media, show off the perfect relationship and can lead us to compare ourselves. And it's extremely damaging to our self-esteem if we are in constant comparison to these idealized relationships. I know it's easier said than done to just don't compare, but it's so hard when he exists. In addition, we might compare our current relationships to our past relationships or our single selves to our taken selves. Surprisingly, I'm actually quite fond of my single self. I tend to focus more on me, take care of myself, go to the gym, eat better, see my friends more, and yet I stay in pursuit of romantic relationships even when being in those relationships doesn't benefit me. It actually takes me away from my goals. Not saying that that is everyone's experience, but it's definitely mine. Hear me when I say this. If at any point you realize that you're either in a relationship or looking for a relationship, for external validation either on social media, from your friends and family, or even just self-validation that you are in fact lovable and desirable, I think that's a good sign to take a step back and really think on what is driving you to make these choices. Okay, we talked about the pressures, we talked about how it can harm us. Now let's talk some solutions. Like all things, the first step in solving a problem is recognizing that you do, in fact, have a problem. Self-reflection and awareness is critical when you're solving interpersonal relationship issues. This might sound tacky, but mindfulness and journaling are beneficial. It's great to look back on the past. And I know it doesn't come easy for all of us. Trust me, there have been times that I waited until it was medically necessary to write down my thoughts because I did not want to journal. Which is also why it might be a good idea to have a friend that you trust and that you can talk to. It's super helpful to just hear your thoughts out loud and listen to your own thought process. Bonus points if you have access to therapy. Reflecting on our past, our values, what drives us is a really good way to stay on track for our goals and recognize if our actions are in line with what we want. I hate to bring in a business perspective, but having a motto or some core values is a great way to keep on track for your goals. Another small solution might just be a good idea to be mindful about the media you're consuming. If your For You page is all depressing slideshows, this is crazy. You can actually hold down on a video and then there's a pop-up and you can click not interested. I know, you actually can tailor your For You page to benefit you versus seeing depressing all the time. And I know I sound like a broken record, but maybe put more time towards your friends and your family. Take the time you spend on dating apps or Discord dating servers and spend it pursuing other people platonically. Friends are great. Sharing emotional and intellectual intimacy with someone you trust with no strings attached, non-exclusively, no second agenda, it's quite wholesome. Being around people that really have your best at heart, who can help you point out the red flags and be the support system when you need it, are great people to have. I recognize not everyone has strong connections with their friends or their family, which I think just further emphasizes the importance of reaching out and trying to maintain and make those connections. And remember, your friends are probably experiencing something similar too. Be the friend you want to have and reach out, talk about it. Friendships are also great practice grounds to establishing healthy relationship dynamics. Mutual respect, clear communication, learning how to set boundaries. That's huge. Also, just creating a space in your friend group or your family to have these tough conversations about relationships, about feelings of loneliness, about your desire to connect with other people. Super important too. I want to end with some practical, individualized advice since it was a critique on one of my past videos that I didn't give that out. If you are looking to do something today, I would physically write out your values. For me, my values are honesty, empathy, and consideration. Great. Now not only hold yourself to these values, but seek them out in your current relationships. Is this person being considerate? Am I being honest right now? Hold yourself and others to the standards that you set. And keep reflecting and adjusting these values as you go about life. You change, the people around you change, your environment changes, and that should reflect. One piece of advice my dad gave me when I was much younger was that relationships will not work if there is a difference in morals and values. And this has reigned true to this day. Just remember, there will always be external pressures to act one way, behave one way, look this way, whatever, which is why it's always important to reflect on your actions and why you're doing what you're doing. And remember that you do in fact have the autonomy to seek change in your life. You can do it. Thank you to everyone who's watched my video all the way through. It's great seeing you here at the end. I hope you were able to take something of value away from this content. And as always, I love reading your questions, comments, concerns, curse words, so keep them coming. And of course, there is a Google form in my bio, in my description for you to fill out. It's 100% anonymous and I use that data for future videos. So I want to give you guys recent, real, and relevant information. Until next time.